You know, we always hear about those little releases of documents about the JFK assassination, right? Those
Yeah.
drips of information that just kind of keep the questions alive.
Yeah.
But this time it feels like we got hit with a tidal wave, tens of thousands of pages,
Uh-huh.
all hitting the public record at once. And this all came from the Trump administration.
Right.
Now, if you're like me at all and you find this whole moment in history and the questions around it just utterly compelling,
Mm.
well, this is a big deal. So in this deep dive, we're going to go right to the source.
Okay.
We've got news reports from News Nation and CBS Minnesota, plus an analysis of what's in these releases.
Okay. Sounds good.
So our goal today is pretty simple.
Yeah.
We need to figure out what new insights these documents might have, if any.
Right.
And we'll look at what kind of roadblocks the researchers are hitting as they try to make sense of it all. And then also what the experts are saying about how this impacts our understanding of the assassination.
Okay. So, like, what's the overall consensus?
Yeah, exactly. So right off the bat, the thing that really hits you is the sheer volume of material we're talking about, right?
Yeah. So President Trump actually estimated it at about 80,000 pages.
Wow.
And it's the National Archives and Records Administration, NARA.
Right.
They're the ones who've been tasked with this monumental job of getting this all uploaded and accessible.
Right.
And the big thing here is that NARA stated that all records previously withheld for classification have been released.
Okay.
But, that doesn't mean that everything is, like, instantly available online.
Right. So it's not just a click and download situation we're talking about.
No.
It's mountains and mountains of information. And it's interesting because a lot of this isn't really brand new information, is it?
Yeah, that's right.
It's stuff that's been kind of redacted before, and now we're getting to see it in full.
Yeah, a lot of these pages are actually unredacted versions of documents researchers have already seen, but with certain details blacked out.
Right, exactly.
And, even though it might not be totally new info, this is what makes this release so important.
Right.
It's like, for those trying to piece together what happened.
Okay, so we've seen parts of these documents, but now we see them in their entirety.
Yeah.
Can you kind of give us an example of why this is so significant? What could these previously hidden details reveal?
Well, Professor David Barrett, he gave this example.
Okay.
He mentioned a memo about the CIA's relationships with newspapers in Miami.
Okay, interesting.
And also details about 3 CIA officers who were involved with technical intelligence collection in Cuba.
Okay.
And so think about why these specifics might have been redacted to protect ongoing operations or even identities of sources.
Yeah, definitely.
But unredacting them could reveal more about the nature of these CIA activities.
Right.
Like the extent of their influence with the media and maybe even connections to other events or people.
Right, and individuals surrounding the assassination.
Exactly.
So by getting these previously hidden details about the CIA's actions, what kind of new questions could researchers be asking now? It sounds like it's not really about finding that smoking gun that everyone talks about.
Yeah.
It's more about getting a better picture of what was happening at the time.
Yeah, exactly. While removing the redactions might not point to some secret meeting,
right,
it could provide some really crucial context and connections.
I see.
That weren't there before.
Yeah.
So it's adding like these layers of detail that could really shift our understanding.
Okay, so with all these details coming out now, what are the experts saying about whether this will fundamentally change our understanding of what happened?
Well,
are we about to see a total rewrite of the narrative here?
Well, the feeling among experts seems to be one of, cautious expectations.
Okay.
They get that it's valuable to have more info.
Right.
But they're not really thinking there's going to be some huge revelation that's going to flip everything we thought we knew about Lee Harvey Oswald being the lone assassin.
Right. So not quite the bombshell some people might have been hoping for after all this time.
Right.
We heard from Gerald Posner. He wrote, "Case closed."
Yeah.
And he pretty much said he doesn't expect to find some note that just says, by the way, the agency did it.
Exactly. And Rick, who's gone through a ton of material on this, he's talking like over 500,000 pages.
Wow.
He agrees.
Okay.
He says, this release will give us facts, but it won't change much about what we already understand. And he doesn't think we're going to find some massive conspiracy with all these unknown figures.
So a nice dose of realism there.
Yeah.
But Professor Matthew Wilson offered a bit of a different take.
Okay.
He said the point of this release is to at least try to put some of those rumors to bed.
Right.
Talking about the conspiracy theories that have been swirling around forever.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So some people think that by being more transparent, even if we don't find some hidden plot, it could help address some of those doubts and theories.
Right, because people have alternative theories.
Right, exactly.
That have persisted for decades.
Yeah, and so the idea is that more info, even if it supports the existing conclusions,
right,
could help the public understand more and maybe even give some people a sense of closure.
Okay, so maybe not a big conspiracy reveal.
Right.
But is there a chance these documents could shed more light on some things?
Yeah.
Specifically, what the CIA and the FBI knew about Lee Harvey Oswald before that day.
Yeah.
That's always been a huge area of speculation.
No, definitely it has. And Gerald Posner brought up a really critical question.
Okay.
Did the CIA have more intelligence about potential threats from Oswald than they let on?
Okay.
And should they have told the FBI?
Right.
Maybe even preventing the assassination?
Right.
It makes you wonder if there were intelligence failures or if they just didn't communicate well between agencies.
That's a huge question.
Yeah.
And Oswald's trip to Mexico City and him meeting with people connected to the Soviet embassy seem to be key parts of this whole line of questioning.
Right.
What makes that so important?
Well, we know Oswald went to Mexico City and met with those people. It's documented, but the questions are about the details of those meetings.
Okay.
What did they talk about? And did the CIA know about this in a way that should have been a huge red flag?
Right.
You know, should they have told the FBI right away?
Yeah.
And then there's also that intercepted phone call that Oswald made to the Soviet embassy in Mexico City.
Right. Just weeks before.
Yeah, in October 1963, just weeks before the assassination.
Yeah.
This has always made people speculate about foreign connections or intelligence agencies being interested in Oswald.
So maybe we won't find out who else might have been involved in the assassination.
Okay.
But we could get a clearer idea of what our own agencies knew and when they knew it, and if any missed opportunities or communication breakdowns played a role.
Right.
So for researchers who are going through these thousands of pages, it's got to be overwhelming, right?
Oh, yeah.
How are they even starting?
Yeah, that's a big hurdle.
Yeah.
Gerald Posner even said that the way these documents were released is super frustrating for researchers.
Okay.
He described it as just a massive info dump.
Okay.
Like, here's 50,000 documents. Good luck.
Wow.
And there's no clear guide, no index that highlights what's new or important.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's like looking for a grain of sand on a giant beach.
Yeah.
And no one's even telling you where to look.
And Posner had that great line.
Yeah.
He said it was a masterclass in how not to do a documentary stamp, right?
Yeah, what he means is that there's no organization, no metadata that lets researchers easily compare these new documents to the old ones.
I see.
A good documentary stamp would tell you what changed.
Okay.
What redactions were lifted, what info was added.
Okay.
So you could easily see the new stuff. But without that, researchers had to go through everything manually. Compare it to what they know.
So inefficient.
Yeah, super time-consuming.
It's a huge undertaking.
It is.
And even with this massive release, we need to remember that not everything is out in the open, right?
Yeah, that's really important.
There are still some records that are being kept secret.
Yes. NARA said that all previously classified records are out. But there are some that are still being withheld.
Okay.
Like stuff under court seal, like grand jury proceedings and IRS files.
Okay.
Those need special legal action to be unsealed.
Okay.
And Rick said that about 1% of the records are still being held back.
Okay.
Because different agencies think they would be a national security risk if they were released.
Right.
And also, even though they want to digitize everything,
Right.
some of the files you can only see in person at the National Archives in Maryland.
So the picture's still incomplete even after all this.
Yeah.
So let's talk about why this is happening now, especially under Trump. It feels like there's a political side to this, too.
Definitely. This was a campaign promise from Trump.
Okay.
And his alliance with Robert F. Kennedy Jr.,
Right.
who's been pushing for more transparency about the assassinations of his father and uncle, definitely played a role.
Right.
There's a lot of public interest and doubt about the official story.
Yeah, definitely.
And people have been wanting full disclosure for years. So this release is kind of a response to that pressure and those political promises.
And this isn't the first time we've seen documents related to JFK being released, right?
No, not at all.
This has been a long process over many years.
It has the push to declassify these records really got going with the JFK Assassination Records Collection Act of 1992.
Right.
That law said all assassination documents had to be released by October 2017.
Okay.
But it also said the president could keep some secret for national security.
Okay.
So over the years, both Trump and Biden have released thousands of documents.
Okay.
But a lot of it was redacted, which was frustrating.
Right.
This latest release is another step in that process that started with the 1992 law.
To understand all of this, let's talk about Lee Harvey Oswald.
All right.
He's the one that the Warren Commission said acted alone.
Right.
And that conclusion has been criticized a lot and led to so many different theories over the years.
So Lee Harvey Oswald was a former U.S. Marine.
Okay.
He defected to the Soviet Union in 1959.
Wow.
And then came back to the U.S. in 1962. He considered himself a Marxist.
Okay.
And was part of a group that supported Fidel Castro.
Okay.
In the months before Kennedy was assassinated.
Right.
He was in contact with the Soviet and Cuban consulates.
Okay.
After the shooting, Oswald was arrested.
Right.
But then Jack Ruby shot and killed him.
Right.
2 days later before he could go to trial.
Right. And that was huge news.
It was. And the Warren Commission's report, which said Oswald acted alone, has been debated ever since.
Right.
And led to all those other theories.
So to sum this all up, this recent release is a ton of information. A lot of it was previously redacted.
Right.
And it gives researchers a much more complete view of what happened.
Okay.
The experts don't think we're going to see big changes to the history books.
Okay.
But these documents could tell us more about what the government knew about Oswald before the assassination. But it's a lot of material, and there's no clear guide. So it's a tough job to analyze it all. And we also have to remember that some records are still being kept from us.
Yeah, for different legal and national security reasons.
Right, exactly.
You know, what's interesting is this tension between the public wanting to know everything about this huge event and the government still keeping secrets for national security and other things.
It's always a balance.
It is. And this release, which happened because of politics and laws, shows that people are still really interested in this event and want to understand what happened in the past.
For sure, and it makes you think, right?
Yeah.
Even if these new files don't reveal some big conspiracy, why are we still so fascinated by this decades later?
Exactly.
What does it tell us about how we see the government being transparent and how we try to find the truth about history and how we deal with our past?
Yeah, it's like this deep dive into the JFK assassination doesn't end.
Right.
Even after we've read all the documents.
Yeah. It keeps going.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
It is.
Well, thanks for breaking all this down for us.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
And to all of you listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
We'll be back next time with another look at some compelling piece of history.
This is good.
Until then, keep those questions coming and keep exploring.
Keep digging.
Absolutely.
See you later.